interrupt our regular programming, the Dave Ramsey Show, to bring you this special broadcast, 2014 Election Political Forum. Good afternoon and welcome in. The phone lines are open at 423-8101, 1-800-304-1015. I'm going to need to move that so I can see the phone lines. I'm Keith Shirley, the news director for 101.5 and .5digital.com. Senate race today. The state Senate race is what we're going to be discussing, and I am fortunate and lucky to have two of the candidates in the studio with me. I will immediately defer to them and let them and say good afternoon and let them introduce themselves. Good afternoon. We'll start with you, Tim York.
Good afternoon.
How you doing?
Very well.
Lean in just a little bit to that, please. Good.
Tim York, Constitution Party candidate.
And Randy?
Randy Lamb, Democratic candidate for the 27th District.
Appreciate it.
Good to be here.
It's good to have you here, gentlemen, and appreciate it. We want to make clear that we did invite the candidate Ed Jackson, the Republican candidate for this, but Ed's office declined to participate in this forum. We respect and respectfully acknowledge that and appreciate them taking the information. And so we're going to move on with the candidates that we have. We'll also point out, too, that James Baxter yesterday announced that he was withdrawing. Now, to clarify that, James Baxter's name will still be on the ballot. He is still listed on the ballot, but yesterday, James Baxter, candidate, announced that he announced that he would not seek this office, but instead would be seeking another office. And I believe, Randy, yesterday, James acknowledged you for his support. Is that correct?
That's correct, but he actually did it Monday night. He withdrew basically Monday night and endorsed me, and then had a public announcement yesterday, I believe, at the courthouse or at the City Hall.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Randy is the Democrat candidate. Tim is the Constitutional Party candidate. And I'll start with you, Tim, and ask you, you're a Constitutional Party candidate. Tell me about the Constitutional Party.
Well, the Constitution Party, the Tennessee Constitution Party, bases on 7 principles: life, liberty, family, property, constitutional government, which is the original intent, state sovereignty, and American sovereignty. We're the fastest growing political party in the country. Presently, I am the chairman of the Madison County Constitution Party. About a year ago, I went to a Tea Party meeting, and they were discussing the Constitution Party, and they were going to have a meeting, so I attended it about a month later and got involved in it and saw, well, I wasn't satisfied with the two major parties, the way they were taking us in the direction we were going at a fast rate. And I thought, this might be the way to go. It kind of woke me up to what I had been thinking for a long time. I was not a recovering Republican like a lot of the Constitution Party people were, but it hit my heart, and it's just I thought that was the thing we ought to be doing.
Randy, you entered the race as the Democratic nominee. Tell me why.
Because I've been a Democrat all my life. And now that doesn't mean that I've always strictly voted the Democratic line. I do try to look at candidates that I believe represent my interest the best, based on my principles and everything else. I have voted Republican before. Not too many people fuss at me about that. They're glad that I voted for Reagan twice and Nixon once. But I believe you look at the candidate, you look what he has to offer to you and the ideals that you are involved in. And I try to look at that. But at the same time, I'm firmly a Democrat. I've been a Democrat all my life. I believe it more closely aligns its beliefs with what I believe. And I just like to compliment Tim today on having the courage to get here today. As an attorney, I've taken an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States and all its amendments, and also the Constitution of the state of Tennessee and all its amendments. Where I probably differ with Tim on a lot of things is I believe that constitutions are documents that have to survive each age and each time. I don't believe they stand on the same holy ground as the 10 Commandments. I believe that, and I think the amendments that are being offered by the various parties now tell me that the Constitution can be a fluid document and represent the interest of the times. I don't think it's a document that's cut in stone, and I appreciate that effect. But I do also believe that any amendment to the Constitution needs to be well thought out, because the documents in both the federal and the state level have represented us well over the years, and I admire Tim for standing by those principles and being willing to say publicly what he believes about them.
I want to keep this forum very much about what each candidate represents and believes, and I appreciate both of you agreeing to come on. I shy away from getting into a he said conversation, but Tim, I do want to give you a chance to respond to what Randy just said.
I appreciate Randy basically did a lot of advertising for us. Being a lawyer, he has all the ins and outs, but original intent, if you look back at our framers, it's like you had a factory and they go into business to make one product, and then all of a sudden they get away from that, and then they go another direction, and you say, well, we got away from our original intent of what we were doing, and we were doing good, but why did we do that? Well, we just went over here because we kind of like this, and we just we think we'll do better over here. And it's not, you get away from your principle, and the next thing you know, you got a product from your original intent that you weren't looking to do. The founders, with all their wisdom, thought the document out. James Madison, when he wrote it, it was not just a fly by the night thing. It was to replace the other documents that were inferior. They made this document to be more of a lasting document, and of course, by offering amendments, it has been changed through the years, but it is very hard to change it.
Let me ask you about the obvious, I'll refer to as the 800-pound gorilla in the room, and that's the GOP party, the Republican Party, which carries supermajorities at many, many levels in state government and in local government. At a state level, both in the House and in the Senate. At a local level, of 25 county commissioners, 18 of those seats are held by the Republican Party. So, Randy, I'll start with you. What differentiates you from the GOP, and what similarities do you believe you share with that party?
Okay, I'll be happy to answer that. I'd like to basically respond to one of the things that Tim just said, if you'll let me. The founders, in all their wisdom, also believed that a slave was only 4/5 of a man, and a lot of them believed that the earth was flat. So I'm not so sure that they had all the wisdom that we should give them for all time. I think we have to respond to times as they change and knowledge as we acquire it. Regarding the county commission, to me it's a lot like the supermajority in the legislature. Anytime you get one party in total control or a supermajority, they're going to, at some point, I believe, start believing their own hype and their own publicity. They're going to quit looking to reach across the aisle. They're going to quit looking to try to find parity or equality with the other side. They're going to start believing the things that they want to believe without actually addressing the needs of the minority. Now, our country is a democracy, but at the same time, it's a republic. And ingrained in our republic is the idea that minorities have rights that have to be protected by the majority. And for right now, we're very happy as Caucasians or white Americans when we're in the majority. Sometimes we get all too happy that minority rights don't matter too much. But I think if you read the paper or watch the news very often, you're going to find that before long, brown and black are going to be the majority and whites may be in the minority. And what I would like to advocate for us now that we are in the majority as white people, that we protect and preserve those rights of the minority now, so that when we find ourselves in the minority, that our rights too will be protected. I don't believe that the county commission or the state legislature represents us properly because it's too in tune with itself. It's just like a choir. If you have a choir of all altos or all tenors or all basses or all sopranos, it's not going to have a good sound. A good choir is going to have a mixture of those. And I think a good legislature is going to have a mixture of races, men, women, all sorts of minorities, so that we can understand each other a little better and try to work together more properly.
Okay. Tim, I'm going to ask you the same question, and let me repeat the question so that you both hear it. The GOP, the Republican Party, is the predominant party in the state and in many places in the county. What similarities do you have with those who support or who are identified as that, and what do you think differentiates you from that?
I think it's hard to figure out what they are. they run as a Republican to get elected, and then they cast votes that are a shadow of what they say they are. They say they're conservative, yet when they go to vote for issues, they vote the other way. The Constitution Party believes in the least of the minorities, which is the individual. I is the least of the minorities, and that's what the Constitution Party stands for. We support the rights of all the people, not one segregated group, women, men, black, white, Asian. It doesn't matter. It's the power of the individual. But like I say, there's no difference, in my opinion, of the Republican Party, because you don't know what they are. They're not. They don't hold true to any belief system, in my opinion, and that's the reason the Constitution Party does hold true to their belief system.
We're going to take a break. We come back. We will continue this conversation. We are discussing 2014, the state Senate race for the 27th District in West Tennessee. Constitutional Party candidates Tim York and Democrat Randy Lamb in the studio with me. Your phone calls welcome, 423-8101, 1-800-304-1015. We'll be back with more after this.
You got to say it to believe it. Friendly Frank's Flea Market, once a month, shop till you drop.
Welcome back, and thank you for keeping your radios locked right here on Jackson's News Talk 101.5 FM. We have interrupted our regular programming, the Dave Ramsey program, and we will do so for the next 2 days, today, tomorrow, including tomorrow and Friday. We're interrupting our programming to bring you information, education, and opportunity to ask questions about the upcoming election, which has a number of very important items on the ballot. One of those is the state Senate race for the 27th District, and we are right now talking with two of the candidates. In the room with me is Democrat Party candidate Randy Lamb and Constitutional Party candidate Tim York. We want to let you know that we did include an extended invitation to the Republican candidate for the seat, Ed Jackson. Gentlemen, thank you for being here today. Let's talk a little bit about the district that is at stake here, because it's a new district. This was redrawn after the census when the Republican Party took office. They were able to, and the census was done. The Republican Party, the first time that they were able to draw district lines, probably since Reconstruction, I believe, is how far that would go back. And it's now a different district. Randy, you're familiar with this district. Tell me about it.
District 27 now is made up of Lake, Lauderdale, Dyer, Crockett, and Madison counties. 3 counties on the river, and the 2 counties coming back toward Jackson, Crockett, and Madison. Actually, when the Republicans got in control, as the parties typically do, Democratic or Republican, they tried to make the seat as hard, I think, for the Democratic incumbent as they could, as probably Democrats would have done if they were able to redistrict. And as I understand it, the district, as it has been redrawn now and taken, it was Madison, Gibson, and Carroll counties. Mm-hmm. And Gibson and Carroll, as I understand it, were very strong counties for Low Finney. So they took those 2 counties away from him and gave him, in addition to Madison, they gave him Lake, Dyer, Lauderdale, and Crockett. And in effect, from the numbers that I've seen, made it a Republican district with 54% or so Republicans to try to ensure that the next senator from this district would be a Republican. But unknown to them, I grew up in Lake County, graduated from school there, went to junior college in Dyer County, graduated from Dyersburg State with a degree in pre-engineering, then went on down to Memphis, got a degree in electrical engineering, moved back to Madison County, practiced engineering with South Central Bell. Later went back to law school, came back to Madison County, and I practiced law in Crockett County. And while I was an engineer with South Central Bell, I also worked in Lauderdale County And as an attorney, I have worked in Lauderdale County. So if God could have taken a small wand and waved it in this district to create one for me, he couldn't have done a better job. And if he did that, I want to thank him publicly right now. Thank you, Lord.
Tim, tell me about what your familiarity is with this newly drawn district of these 5 counties that we're talking about.
Mhm. I was born in Dyer County in Dyersburg Hospital. I was raised in Crockett County. I went to high school in Crockett County, lived there till I was 42 years old, and moved to Madison County. Been here 14 years. I worked in Lauderdale County. I worked at Halls for the Postal Service for a couple years. Worked in Dyer County a couple years, and took my grandfather and uncle to the lake every Sunday ever since I was 16 to about 19 years old. So familiar with all the counties involved.
So, Tim, am I correct in hearing you say, and Randy, the same question to you, that while you see, or let me ask you first, do you see this as what was intent to be drawn as a predominantly Republican district?
I'm sure it was, but you never know. I wasn't there to do it, so I don't know what their thought process was.
But do you see the people in these 5 counties that you've worked with, that you grew up with, do you identify them as partisan people?
Back in when I was Crockett County, it's hard to say. Everything's changed so much. The Democrat Party that used to be in Crockett County is not the same ones. And like I said earlier, they are they have kind of commingled together because you don't know whether this guy used to be a Democrat and now he's a Republican. Well, no, I never was a Republican. I was always a Democrat. I mean, I'm this, I'm that. So you never know what they were. The Lake County and Lauderdale County, to me, would probably lean more toward the Democratic Party more so than the Republicans. They were had stronger representatives there. Dyer would be, I would say, be a toss-up, but Crockett, same way. But Madison was definitely leaning toward the Republican side.
Randy, what do you see of the people? Is it a partisan district that's been drawn?
Okay, first let me offer Tim my vice presidency. I didn't realize you had as many contacts as I did in this district. I believe it was intended to be partisanly drawn, but I believe the people of West Tennessee are good folks. I believe if you'll give them honesty, I believe if you'll answer their questions with integrity, I believe that they'll vote for the person and not for the party. I have that much faith in this district that I believe that. I know that Republicans and Democrats have different ideologies. I think that's a good thing. I believe that Republicans primarily represent on the whole business interest, and I think Democrats on the whole represent the common people. I think that debate, as it plays out, brings us closer to the middle to do things that can be good for business and can be good for people. So I think on the whole, this district, West Tennessee, I'm not going to speak about Middle and East till I get to Nashville, but West Tennessee, I believe, is full of wonderful people that want to do the right thing, and they want to be represented by somebody that thinks for themselves. And I truly believe that with all my heart.
Randy, why can't we have representation that represents the business of the people? And here's the example that I mean. I've heard the phrase used, we must protect the job creators. We must do all we can for the job creators. What I hear on the street is, and what I see from my experience is, the job creators are the 3 of us. The job creators are the people that are listening. When you go into a hardware store and you buy a widget, when you go to a restaurant and you sit down and you order a meal, you are creating the job. The person that owns the business can open the business, hire the people, and want to order the product. But if there's no money coming in, if there are no customers for that, if there are no job creators coming in the door, I don't see computer companies just going, you know what, let's just make 1 million computers and warehouse them and create a bunch of jobs. I see that the individual creates the jobs. So in that mindset, if we're protecting the job creator, that's the people who need to keep more money in their pockets so that they can go out and spend that. Why can't we have representatives that are about the business of the people?
Well, if you elect me, you will. The issue is not about jobs. Slaves had jobs. We have people talking right now, Ed's one of those, about he's a job creator. Well, to me, creating $2.15 an hour jobs with tips are not the kind of jobs that we need. We need representatives and senators who admit that we need good, high-paying jobs, but at the same time, The backbone of our economy are small businesses. We give the bank away to large corporations to lure them in with tax breaks, tax incentives, all sorts of things, property and everything else. Why don't we do the same thing to small business? Why don't we make it easier for them to be in business? Why don't we give them some tax incentives? Why don't we give them tax breaks? Why don't we make it easier for them? Because a lot of people can start jobs. You see it all the time with landscaping companies, fruit stands, and whatever. While we're waiting for the big jobs to come to the mega site in Brownsville or other places, we can give mom and pop those same advantages that we're selling the state for to give it to large corporations. We need people to start thinking out of the box. You can represent corporate America as a legislator as well as mom and pop. You just got to have the wherewithal and the guts to do it, and you got to know where to draw the line. People matter. That is Representative Craig Fitzhugh's motto. I firmly believe in that, because without people that can buy this stuff, I've heard all the time how corporations are outsourcing all over the world, sending it to places that pay minimum wage or less or hardly nothing, and then bringing those products back here because it's cheaper and expecting Americans to be able to buy those products. How can we buy those products if we don't have a sustainable living wage? Nobody that lives and works a 40-hour week should live in poverty.
Tim, I want to ask you the same question, and going to what you talked about with the Constitutional Party and the greatest minority is I feel that same way because, you know, big corporations, they've got plenty of representatives and lawyers, and no offense, Randy, you're not a big corporation lawyer.
I've been offended enough. That's okay.
They've got these. I'm about you talked about the Constitutional Party. What about being about the business of the people?
Well, one thing, we believe in free market capitalism. We believe in the spirit of the entrepreneur. And Randy's right. You know, it's the individual. Hey, what can I say? He basically,
Thank you, Tim.
On part of it, not all of it. But anyway, you know, small mom and pop stores, a company that has 10, 15 employees. You know, that's the backbone of it. We're spending millions and millions of dollars to try to get these big corporations in here. It'd be like that solar plant that went bankrupt in Clarksville, and I think we're on the hook for what, $145 million. Taxpayers shouldn't be funding that. We should be giving the breaks to the people that actually put the jobs out there and do the work, and that's the people that, like you say, do the come in and buy the widget, go out to eat, which I'm a fond member of that class as far as going out to eat, because we frequent all the local establishments. But that's how we feel about it. It's just a matter. It's the small businesses that make it, instead of us. The crony capitalism is not the way to go, and it seems like all those, not only in Nashville, but Washington, that's who they cater to, because that's where the money comes from.
Keith, could I just address one thing about jobs are very important to me, and I think it's something that's worth mentioning. The legislature has spent a lot of money creating the mega site down in Haywood County, trying to lure corporate America to there, which is a good idea because we need those kind of jobs. We're having trouble getting them down there. And one of the reasons, I believe, is at the same time they are refusing to expand Medicaid under the Obama Affordable Care Act. By doing that, they've allowed Haywood Park Hospital to virtually close. You don't have anything there hardly other than a transitional place that could get you to a hospital if you needed it. Corporations that are looking to go to the mega site, I think they're going to be concerned that they don't have a hospital nearby for their employees. They're not going to have a hospital nearby for their management. Why would they want to locate in a place like that when they'd have to go to the hospital in Memphis or the hospital in Jackson to do that? We need to do that. But at the same time, the same thing is true about education. Why would a corporation want to come to Haywood County when we've been about the business of deconstructing education? I heard that word the other day in relation to the Bemis Mill. Deconstructing is not demolishing. Deconstructing is taking it apart piece by piece and selling it off to the highest bidder and making money off of that. That's exactly what we're doing to public education here in Tennessee. We're privatizing it into an eventual ineffectiveness. That we're doing that with vouchers, we're doing that with charters, we're doing that with virtual schools, we're doing that with outsourcing jobs to the private sector, where the only concern is about making money and then blaming teachers and bad public education for a great many of the social ills that we have over which teachers have absolutely no control. And then we're also asking teachers to be all things to our kids. We're asking them to do a job that parents can't even do, and then we're holding them accountable for things that are way beyond the things that are in control. So if we're serious about bringing jobs, we need to expand Medicaid to keep our hospitals down near the mega site. We need to invest money in public education to have one of the best first-class public education systems in West Tennessee or even the nation. If we do that, we'll lure those large corporate jobs to West Tennessee. We will be on the right path.
Tim, how does the Constitutional Party feel about expanding and putting more government money into health care and more into education?
I think we all know the answer to that. It would be no. We want to keep the money in the pocket of the person. That makes it. That goes back to the I. It will be the individual then that decides what to do with it, and it's best served at the local level. The problem is we're sending all our money to Washington, D.C., and they decide how we're going to use it, not the state. They send it back to the states. Right now we're doing about, I think it's 47% of our money comes from the federal government. They decide what department it's going to, and they funnel it back to us when it should be done locally. And it goes with education, and that's one of my, of course, that's what we real disagree on that. That is an issue that it should be taken care of locally.
See it as a local issue. We come back, we're going to talk more. We are visiting with Democrat Party candidate Randy Lamb, Constitutional Party candidate Tim York. They are candidates for the 27th District State Senate. I do want to say that we did extend an invitation to Republican candidate Ed Jackson for this forum as well. Phone lines are open, 423-8101, 1-800-304-1015. Well, good afternoon and welcome back. This is 2014 Election Forum. I'm Keith Shirley, News Director for 101.5 FM and point5digital.com, interrupting our regular programming to bring you this series of forums. Tomorrow, we will have representatives in the studio discussing some of the amendments that are on, the constitutional amendments that are on this year's ballot. And then on Friday, we will be talking specifically about Amendment 2, the judicial retention. Tomorrow, we will take up 3 and 4, I believe is the way we've got that. 1 and 4, 3 and 4. We'll have more information on that. Very locked in on what we're talking about here right now. Gentlemen, I want to throw this out to both of you, and I will start with Tim because I believe I started with Randy last time. The Republican Party, the party that's in power, is the party that's in power right now. They can rightfully say, our message is what's tapped into what people want because they've elected us. Our message is what, our way of governing and what we are wanting to do is what people want. How would you defend a different party coming in to the Republicans who would say, we are the party that people want?
Well, I would say that 2 out of 3 registered voters do not vote. I would say that only probably 26% will probably vote in this election. That's hardly a mandate. And you say that they are in the supermajority. However, there's a lot of those that got elected as Republicans are not Republicans. I think I tie them in that there's basically little difference between the two because they've given us the same type government. You got to say what's changed. Look at Bill Haslam wants to expand Medicaid. There's just a lot of issues that there's basically no difference between the two parties.
Randy?
Basically this, elections come and go and people change their minds and people sometimes are disappointed in what they've chosen. And the people will decide what kind of candidate they want to be their elected representative this time. And I take this opportunity to say this. Ed Jackson says he's tired of West Tennessee being left behind. He says it's costing us jobs, it's hurting families, and I couldn't agree with him more. In the Jackson Sun today, he's standing by probably the most influential, powerful man in Tennessee, Lieutenant Governor Ron Ramsey, who is the Speaker of the Republican-controlled Senate and the Lieutenant Governor of the state of Tennessee. If West Tennessee is being left behind, as Ed says it is, isn't Ron Ramsey and the supermajority that are there of Republicans and legislators in control of it being left behind? So does Ed really think if he can do anything about that, the neglect that the Republicans have obviously, in his view, have caused us to be left behind? Does Ed really want to go to Nashville to fight against his own party? Will he do that? The Tennessee GOP sure is spending a truckload of money on him, betting he won't. Does he even have the courage to try that by going there? If so, where is he today, and where's his courage today?
Let's go to the phone lines and take these calls. Good afternoon, caller. Thank you for listening.
Hey, fellas. One quick thing, then I got a question. The mega site is at exit 42, so I would believe Methodist Hospital East in Memphis would be a lot closer than the little hospital in Brownsville that was closed down that wasn't making any money. That being said, I got a three-part question. The two candidates there, I would like to know if they are for or against abortion, the death penalty, and drug testing welfare recipients.
That's for you. All right. Thank you.
Hang up.
All right. Thank you very much. And we will start, Randy, we'll start with you. And that gets to part of the question we're going to talk about after the next break, and that is where your position is on the constitutional amendments that are up for grabs. Right. But take that caller's question.
Okay, be happy to. I'm assuming that you're happy with a hospital closing that does serve people in Haywood County, but be that as it may. Let me take number 3 first, drug testing. I have absolutely no problem with people on welfare being drug tested, but I think if we're going to do that, they're on the public dole, as some people say. I think that everybody, if we're going to pick out that group, we need to pick out every other group. State senators need to be drug tested. The governor of Tennessee needs to be drug tested. State representatives needs to be tested. Everybody that gets a check from the government needs to be drug tested. Why pick out people that are getting welfare when we're in the form of drugs? Let's drug test everybody. I will be the first one to be drug tested. I have no problem with that. On the abortion question and death penalty, I'm going to try to answer them in the same answer. I believe in the sanctity of life from way before birth, way before conception till way after death. I believe that God gives life. Only God should take it away, except in extreme circumstances. Right now, I don't think birth control, abortion should be any form of birth control. I believe that people that are in those dire situations, people that are in those that should be able to do it in the privacy of their hospital room or wherever it is with the consultation of their doctor, their minister, and whatever. I would hate to believe that a rapist or an incestuous relative could decide that my wife or my daughter would become pregnant and then we could not do anything about it. I would hate to believe that if my wife or my daughter had terminal cancer and she needed chemotherapy, that I would have to let her die to save her child. I would hate to believe that if I was a 12-year-old girl and my father raped me, that the state of Tennessee would make me carry that child to fruition. I believe it's a horrible choice. I would prefer life. But the reality is we're doing things that make abortion necessary or even expedient. Right now, we've got a bill that passed last year by the Republican-controlled legislature that says if you are on crack cocaine and you deliver a baby, we're going to arrest you and take your child. Well, that right there is going to encourage abortions because people that are on crack cocaine that get pregnant are going to go get an abortion. They're not going to want to go and carry that baby to term. There are all sorts of issues that I believe that the government should have no business in. Now, I do believe when a baby becomes viable, when that fetus gets to the point that it can survive outside the womb, that nobody should take that life. But I am with Tim, I would think maybe a little about this. I believe that government intrusion should be the least that it can be. We, by passing Amendment 1, we're going to allow Republicans or Ron Ramsey or whoever it is to sit in the hospital room with a man and his wife and reach his hand inside her womb and decide what she's going to do there. We have people that support the Second Amendment, and I fully support the Second Amendment, that think the government should not control what you carry on your hip. But those same people believe that what you carry in your womb is subject to governmental control. I believe that's wrong.
Let me go to Tim now, and Tim, take.
We'll make it quick.
Okay.
Yes, no, yes, but we shouldn't be subsidizing it anyway.
Okay. Go through that one more time and break those down for me, okay? Okay. And tell me which one is which now.
Okay. Well, which one was first? I think the abortion issue was first. Constitution Party will stand yes on Amendment 1. Randy and I have had it wasn't a heated discussion, but we've had a discussion about this. But the Constitution Party believes in life. That's our first principle is life. So we believe in life. The second one would be the death penalty. For capital, you do a capital crime, then yes, we believe in the death penalty. The third one, yes, but
drug testing.
Drug testing, okay. Yes, but Randy was right on that. Everybody should be tested. And I think that a background check, you know, not only the federal government, but our state government is infiltrated with, let's say, outside sources, foreign governments. And that was one of the things, you know, years ago, the McCarthy trials was talking about communism. Well, we have actually people that are very close to our governor. We have people very close to our president that are, well, they have very close ties with foreign governments. And so not only drug testing, and I would welcome that as a legislature. I think the background checks form would be also imperative.
Let's go to the phone lines and take this caller. Good afternoon, caller. You're on with candidates Randy Lamb and Tim York. Caller, that's you. Go ahead.
Oh, yes. I had a question. Well, actually, I had a statement and a question. I was just going to say that I'm pretty disappointed in the Republican Party running those attack ads towards Randy, which I'm sure everybody's heard them. I just feel like those were completely uncalled for, and that is the reason why I did not vote for Ed Jackson. I did not vote for Randy, but I do like him, and I do like a lot of things he says. But I did have a question. He did say earlier, made the statement that he thinks anyone that works a 40-hour shift should make enough money to not be on welfare or not be, below poverty level. He said. Does he think? Does he think that the minimum wage should be raised to where they make a lot more than what they do?
All right, we'll let Randy answer that.
I absolutely do. I don't think that if you work a 40-hour week and you're willing to work hard, that you should make enough money that if you wanted to afford your own health insurance, you can. On a minimum wage job right now, you're lucky to have an apartment and buy your groceries. How can we expect them to have health insurance? Our congressmen, and I'm not running for Congress, but they make $172,000 a year, I believe, plus we give them free health care. Those guys can afford their own health care. But a man making $280 a week, he can work all week and he can work overtime and he still can't afford it. I believe that we've got our priorities in the wrong place. People that can afford health care, that's a wonderful thing. People that can't, I think they need a little help in doing that. And yes, I think raising the minimum wage is the right thing to do. Every time it's been done, we've heard all sorts of forecasts about businesses are going to close and this and that and the other. And that some of that may be true, but nobody looks at that when they raise the price of gas. Nobody looks at that when they raise the price of electricity. Nobody looks at that when they raise the price of taxes. Nobody looks at that when they raise the price of all sorts of services. And somehow we still do better. I believe we as a country, the richest country in the world, can do better and raise the level of living in this country. We send so much aid overseas that to me it's a shame that we are helping those countries live a better lifestyle in certain places than we are our own people.
Tim,
and I believe we can do better.
Tim, I want to give you a chance to answer that. The question was directed at him, but you respond to it.
What was the question again?
Do you believe that a person working full? Do you believe in raising the minimum wage so that a person working?
I do not believe in a minimum wage, because when you set a minimum wage, you're setting the prices for goods and services will also be affected. So if you go now, I think the president's looking for 10 an hour. It was 15. Now they're settling for 10.10. Well, why not? You know, if a person starts out, usually minimum wage is a job. I started minimum wage. I think it was $3 and something, sacked groceries. Then you get a raise, you kind of move up. I got out of that sacking grocery business. It didn't pay enough. Well, you try to work your way up to maybe be management. There's some managers in McDonald's that do pretty good. But no, we're not for minimum wage. And what Randy said about sending money overseas, definitely we should stop all foreign money going overseas. That should stop immediately. But that's not going to happen.
We're just under so just right at coming up on 5 minutes left in this program. So I'm going to ask you to go quickly with these next answers to give you both a chance to. Tim, I'm going to start with you. Taking each of the amendments, are you familiar with the amendments as they are? Okay, let's start with each of the 4 constitutional amendments. Constitutional amendments, very important to our state. Where do you stand on these constitutional amendments?
On 1, yes. On 2, no. On 3, yes. On 4, it doesn't really matter. Yes or no, however a person feels. If they want to dangle in a lottery, that's fine, but it's really irrelevant, yes or no, depending on your conscience.
Going back now, for those who aren't familiar with that, Constitutional Amendment 1 is the one that says that there's the abortion, and that makes it illegal to have an abortion, even in the case of rape, incest, or life of the mother.
That's the wording of the, we're yes on 1.
Okay, yes on 1.
Yes.
2 is the judicial retention.
Right. That is not an election, and they want to make it legal. So what they've been doing illegally. So no.
You're no on 2. 3 is the
income tax.
State income tax.
Yes.
To make it unconstitutional to have a state income tax.
Yes.
And 4 is the lottery question.
Lottery. Yes.
Okay.
And that's yes or no, however the person feels their conscience.
Okay. Randy?
Let me just say this. My telephone number is 731-616-5177. If you have questions about me, how I stand on any issue, you can call me or you can get on my Facebook page. I've said quite a lot about all these things, but I don't mind answering your questions truthfully and honestly. On Amendment 1 regarding abortion, I think it's a mistake to vote yes. I voted no. On Amendment 2 regarding the judiciary, I think it's a mistake. I voted no. On number 3, banning an income tax, I think it's a mistake. I voted no. We don't know if we were to have an Ebola outbreak, or we don't know if we were to have a terrorist attack, that we would need to raise money quickly. It took them 13 years to get that amendment on the ballot. It would take that long probably to get it back on the ballot, because it just takes a long time. And so in the event we needed extra money, the property owners are going to pay an increased property taxes. Sales tax people are going to pay an increased sales tax. Car people are going to pay an increased car tag fee. So the fees and services are out there, and government's going to raise that to make the money they need. So we need to leave that alone. It's political suicide to vote for an income tax right now, but we don't need to tie the hands of the legislature for the future. On the 4th one, allowing the what I thought to be allow veterans to have lotteries, I'm not sure about that one. I voted no, because I believe there's enough wiggle room in there that it would allow political parties also to have lotteries and raise money that way. We already have too much money in the political arena that's determining our elections, and our people that live in our districts are not being the one that decide our elections. Folks that live in Texas, New York, and Washington, D.C. are deciding who the Tennessee representatives are going to be, and that's wrong. I did vote for yes on wine. I do have a yes in me, but it was on the wine story here in Madison County.
Tim, real quickly, give us your contact information, if you would, please.
YorkForSenate.com. Tim York at Liberty, LIBERTEA.US.
That'll do it for us. I thank the candidates for being in here and answering your questions. We'll be back again tomorrow at 2 o'clock with more election forums here on Jackson's News Talk 101.5 FM.